And there we go, everyone. We are back again for another fantastic conversation on Friday Night Counter Attack. This week, we are joined by a very special guest, and we are here to learn a lot about different leagues and different quality of players as well. And we're here to understand a lot, especially about our special guest. And before we crack on, I want to say thank you very much for everyone who's supported us on our journey so far. We've had the opportunity to speak to some amazing people, and because of your support, by your shares, by your likes, by your conversations on our social media channels, we continue to have this opportunity to speak to some fantastic guests and learn some more about the beautiful game, which is football as well. This week, we are joined by a very special guest who is this is a crazy story. So she's the first ever female Chilean football journalist slash reporter. She's now working in the Netherlands with Feyenoord and with ESPN as a freelancer. And the best thing of all, she's a Manchester United fan. So I'm very happy to welcome to the podcast. Please tell me if I've said your name wrong, but Cecilia Lagos.
That's perfect. That was absolutely perfect. Absolutely
Fantastic.
perfect. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very
Welcome,
much
welcome,
for
welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm very glad. Thank you for the invitation. And yeah, I'm a little bit cold. I just came back less than no, a week ago actually from Chile, my native
Wow.
country. And after 2 months in the sun with my family, and I got back here to the Netherlands. Oh my God. It's a
Northern
little bit, yeah.
Northern Europe is always cold this time of year. So the fact you went to
Yeah.
Chile must have been really cool.
Yeah, well, it was a little bit too much on the other side. I'm a spring person
Ah,
more
okay.
than like a super summer. Well, our summers are like just 28 degrees, 25 degrees. That's good for me. That's like spring for me. But summers are like there 33 degrees, 34 degrees. That's a little bit too much.
I
But
once
still, I think I prefer that than this.
I once went to Panama in July and August, and it was like 44 degrees every single day. And I'm just like, for me, I loved it because again, I live in the United Kingdom, so we get
Yeah.
bad weather 12 months out of 12, which is really, really bad. We'll have like 6 days of nice weather in July, and everyone then panics. So I was really, really happy to get that weather when I went over to Panama as well. Gosh, that's been ages ago as well. But yeah, it's great to see you back. It's great to see you back working as well. What's your plan for this week coming up? Are you back working on the really big game that we'll be talking about later, the PSV Eindhoven versus Feyenoord game? Or
Yeah,
just
actually, I am
oh,
summoned. Yeah, I'm summoned by ESPN to work at the. It's not exactly a classic because the only game that has that label
the
is
Classica?
Feyenoord. It's the Klassieker exactly between Ajax and Feyenoord. The other ones are called toppers.
Yes.
Like they are like top games, but they are not like classic. Although you could discuss, yeah, they are also like a second level classic games, but it's definitely a very important game, and I will be in Eindhoven covering it this Sunday.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to that because PSV have been in some good form and Feyenoord recently got knocked out of the Europa League as well to Roma of all teams as well. But
Yeah.
um, as we begin the show, we are going to talk mostly to begin the show, mostly about your career in football journalism because every time we get a new journalist on, we like to hear about your stories, your journeys, your special moments that you don't really get to share with many people because when you're a journalist, like for me, from what I've seen from the outside, is it's just another conversation, it's another job, it's another interview, it's another report. Every single thing just builds up and builds up and builds up. So for this kind of next 10 minutes or so, you get the time to kind of go, you know what, this was really cool. I got to meet so and so, I got to interview so and so, I got to go to the this tournament. So by all means, my main question to you is my first favorite question, what I ask every single journalist is what was your most favorite football experience as a journalist?
I would say, as a journalist, it was the Women's World Cup in France in 2019. Because
Yes,
for me, as a journalist, it was an opportunity to use all of my talents and also add new skills. I was working for FIFA then. I was a team reporter. I was a team reporter for Chile.
fantastic.
Chile was in their very first adult Women's World Cup. They had qualified for the very first time, so it was a very special occasion. And I was, thank goodness, chosen as their team reporter. And it was so beautiful because I had to be on their same hotel, of course, keeping their distances. and being very respectful of their spaces and everything. But we had like privileged access. I had all access basically, and we had like one-on-one interviews with the FIFA TV crew also. So it was wonderful, not only as the experience of being almost in the locker room with them, almost there, like, but also in terms of all the skills that I had to use as a journalist, because I had to be digital, I had to be on TV, I had to do like almost everything, and I had to do a live blog, and I learned so many things and work under a tremendous pressure, but that kind of pressure that brings the best out of you, because when you do what you love, it doesn't matter. It's just a challenge every day. And then I had to write pieces like follow-ups or interviews. I had to do so many things, and I had to do reports of the game. It was just a wonderful, wonderful experience, because I could contribute with what I already knew. I could bring my own experience to the table, but I also could learn so many other skills. So it was like a completely sort of a round experience for me. It was 360. It was the best.
Absolutely, because from what I heard from that as well, it was Chile's first Women's World Cup and it was your first Women's World Cup as well. So you both went into it at the same time, developing both of your skills, once as a football team, once as coaches and staff, and then you as a journalist as well, because you had the responsibility and the ownership of actually showing off the qualities of your national team as well. So you got to really appreciate that. And you got to really, like you said, show off your skills in all different areas as well, which kind of leads me into my next question as well, because you've had that opportunity to work with FIFA as well, and you're working with ESPN currently at the moment as well. What's it really like when you get to work for these big companies? Do you get to network really well? Do you get to understand different types of media? Do they give you the right training? And for me personally, I kind of want to know as well, how cool is it that you get to have that on your CV as well when you're going, oh yeah, I get to work for FIFA, I get to work for ESPN. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to be honest, I never dreamt of working for FIFA, but then the opportunity came, and when I came here to Europe 6 years ago, I started thinking, I always try to plan in advance, okay, what I want to cover, where's my arrow aimed to. I need to have like a vision and a plan. Otherwise, it's like if I just wait for things to happen, they will never happen. So I start, and as soon as I decide, okay, do I want to go to, let's say it was in Brazil to cover Copa America, or do I want to go to France and cover the Women's World Cup? And then I decided, okay, of course I want to go to the Women's World Cup. And it was also my very first World Cup, either men's or women's. So, and I took contact with the FIFA person in charge of communications and digital media then. So I always take the initiative, and that's something I always tell young journalists. Don't wait for things to happen. Just have a vision and aim for it and take action. So that's what I've done my whole career. And basically, well, things have changed so much since then at FIFA. So then, because I have two spells at FIFA, I also worked for a year and a half between 2022 and 2023, and I also covered Qatar for them.
Wow.
But I was in Qatar twice on 2022 and in 2022, I mean. But I would say that the first experience with them in France and the training I got and the people I got to work with and everything, that was ideal. It was like a dream job. It was like a dream job. Then, of course, you can say I worked for FIFA. Sadly, it didn't last because, they only needed us for that World Cup. And then, they don't have so many tournaments all the time going on. And then what was it? 3 years later, well, with the pandemic in between, that was very difficult too. But with the pandemic in between, then I came back to FIFA as an editor for FIFA.com, and then I was also on the media content production team. And by then, like all of the people I had worked with in 2019, they had left FIFA basically. So it was a completely different world, except for like one person. But he had also changed a bit his role, and and it wasn't exactly the best experience.
No,
But what can I say? You learn from things, you know. Sometimes you learn from disappointments.
absolutely. You learn
Yeah.
from sometimes when it doesn't go your way compared to when it does go your way, because when it doesn't go your way, you're then wondering to yourself, how can I make it better? How can I improve on my current situation?
Yeah,
And
but
that's what you do.
nevertheless, it was, you know, I always have takeaways, like the things I learned. And well, the team and at a personal level, it wasn't the best experience, sadly. Like the people I work with was very unlike me. It wasn't a match. And that took me to the level of, you know, like affecting my mental health. So
Yes,
it
yeah, yeah.
was very, very complicated when you don't work with like good people, or people
Absolutely.
that want to harm you because they want to, you know,
They want to
escalate
improve
or climb.
themselves.
Exactly. So it's like they at any cost, and I'm not like that.
This
So I was
podcast
like,
literally started because
yeah.
we were suffering from like men's mental health issues as well. It started during the
Mm,
pandemic. So the fact that we had this kind of open space to speak freely about things as in
yeah.
not just football, but life and work and everything. That's why this podcast has been so popular since then, because a lot of
Yeah.
people can relate to it. And the stories that you're sharing as well resonates with me, because in terms of how people really want to put other people down so they can go up, that's not a way that we've ever worked. And that's not a really good way of how people can work in this
No, and
day and age.
sometimes when people see, okay, you just got to the pinnacle of a football career, like, okay, you work for FIFA and it looks really cool, as you said, it looks wonderful on my CV, and of course
Yeah.
I'm very, very proud. But on the other hand, like the second spell, it was a terrible experience. And on the other hand, just to for a positive note, like ESPN has always been, it was always my dream. Like I always wanted to work for ESPN. And they called me back in 2011 and they invited me. I did nothing, I swear, but it was
Mm.
always my dream. And they invited me for a whole week to Connecticut, to Bristol, where
Yeah.
their headquarters are. And I participated on the panel of the most important then Spanish speaking football show called
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuera de Juego, with Mario Kempes, with Fernando Palomo,
Just
with
random legends out of nowhere, just filling them out.
exactly. And I was
Crazy.
sitting there like it's already 12, no, 13, well, wait a minute. 13 years ago,
Yeah.
when there were no women, or basically almost no women also on, you know, on sports journalism, or very few of them. And they gave me this opportunity, and the only obstacle by which I wasn't, you know, permanent there, because they didn't sponsor basically Disney, which is the parent company of ESPN, didn't sponsor you know, working visas.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
otherwise, like I really fit, and it was wonderful. And I would have gone, of course, in the blink of an eye had they told me, okay, we want you, we will sponsor you for a visa. But then I kept collaborating with them permanently from Chile. And then when I came here to the Netherlands, the first thing I told them, you know, I'm here in the Netherlands, so, you know, for whatever you need, I can work with you, and I'm available. So then I started again covering, for example, the when I was here, the title of PSV, and then they called me for the last Euro.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be in 2020, it was postponed for 2021, so I was a panelist too. And I had to wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning because there are six hours of difference, you know, time difference. But it was a
Between Chile
wonderful
and the
experience.
Netherlands, was it?
No. That was they are in the US.
Oh, so in terms of communicating with the USA, you had to wake up earlier just to
Exactly,
I get. Yeah.
exactly to connect. So all the European correspondents, we were up at 3, 4 a.m. until 6 a.m. It was complicated, but then I could do it, and it was a wonderful experience. And then I became a correspondent. They were, after the pandemic again, growing, and they wanted more presence. Where they have their properties. So they have the rights of the Eredivisie, and then two big Mexican players uh, came to play here, and then it was Edson Alvarez and Santi Jimenez, and then Chucky
Which
Lozano came back.
we'll get
So
onto them later on as well. There's a lot of
exactly,
conversations to have about Santiago
exactly.
Jimenez.
So I'm a correspondent for them, and I couldn't be happier because it's my dream job.
No, it's fantastic. It's a really well put story as well. The fact you could have gone through this is my job now, this is what I was before, and that was it. But the fact you gave yourself so much time to talk about your ups and your downs as well, and you have that opportunity to share that with us. I really appreciate you going through those questions that I gave you, and especially going through the tough times as well, because anyone listening to this will have tough times going on as well, and like with me as
Of
well.
course,
If I
it's
can
never
learn
a
from it.
linear, it's never a linear career. It has ups and downs. And when you get to the top of the mountain, then you want to climb another mountain because then you realize, okay, this is it. No, of course not. I have the rest of my life and my career ahead. But there are dreams within the dream, you know. I
Absolutely.
love that. Yeah,
Always moving forward as well. My last
exactly.
question on your career in football journalism before we get into football, Eredivisie football coming up next, is name me your top three football players or football icons that you've interviewed and why.
Edwin van der Sar.
Edwin van der Sar, numero uno.
Yeah, yeah. Football icons. Oh my God. You know, sometimes I forget because
Show off.
No, wait a minute. Football, because I need to think that they have to be football icons. Um, I have spoken when I was in Chile with Ivan Zamorano.
Ooh, 1+8. What a player
Oh
he was.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Inter Milan legend, Chile legend.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And another football icon. Wait a minute, because then I forgot. Well, I want to say this is on women's football, but Pernille Harder.
Yeah,
You
Pernille
know,
Harder as well.
Pernille Harder. I think she was my very first interview, important
Insane.
interview here in Europe when I came to live in Europe,
Yeah, yeah.
and you know, few doors started to open, and there was this marvelous, wonderful Spanish magazine called The Tactical Room, which doesn't exist anymore, sadly.
Yeah.
And it was edited by Martí Pernau, the author of the Pep Guardiola books.
Yeah.
And he told me, you know, would you go to Wolfsburg to interview Pernille? And I was like, of course. She was by then the UEFA's best European women's player. So, and she was just, you know, not even thinking about becoming the icon that she later became. Like
And is
she
now.
hadn't exactly, and is now exactly. So it's like she was just starting to realize the role she could have in, you know, for the LGBTI community in football, or just it's a wonderful football player. And she was just very humble, and I'm sure she still is. And yeah, but she said she has grown so much since then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And now we're moving on to the Eredivisie where you are covering as well. I'm wearing my Netherlands jumper for today, the sweater that I've got, which is fantastic as well. And the main reason that I wanted to learn a bit more from you as well, because you have been covering the Eredivisie for such a long time. I wanted to kind of know what's going on so far in the Eredivisie. Why have Ajax faltered from their normally high standards, their superior standards in the Netherlands, and what's really happening in the title race? Because you're looking at PSV, you're looking at Feyenoord as well. And there's a few more conversations of Eredivisie players I want to talk about. One of them, of course, is Santiago Jimenez as well. So starting with Ajax and then talking about the title race. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. I want to hear your thoughts on what's happening with Ajax first of all this season, because they've sold so many players. A lot of them coming to the Premier League in England as well, but they haven't replaced as much as they can. And Jordan Henderson as well joining Ajax as well. That's a very big story.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, everything has to be put in context, and it's just not a random thing that Ajax basically fell apart.
Yes.
You know, because I don't think we can put it in any other way. But it fell apart ever since Mark Overmars had to quit the club because of his, you know, sexual harassment and predator behavior.
Very awful. The way that he
Yeah, it
just tried
was
to move it.
absolutely awful.
Yeah, in football, we see that a lot where a lot of people just brush it under the carpet, but Ajax are like, no, we've got to get rid of you. And fair play to Ajax as well, because a lot of people, like again, with Man United, we've seen a few issues with that happening, and they brush it under the carpet. Chelsea brush it under the
But
carpet.
you know what? I am not sure, and still we are not really sure how much they all knew. I mean, it was fairly known
Mm,
that he harassed women. The thing is that how much did Van der Sar know, I mean,
yeah.
and how much the other members of the board of directors knew. And that's something that we still don't thoroughly know. But the thing is that he was, besides that, he was a brilliant football director. We
Yes.
have to acknowledge that.
It was amazing for
He
what he
was
did with that club.
amazing, exactly. But you cannot condone that behavior, and he had to quit. I mean, he was pushed basically to resign.
He needed to really
Because
for the
yeah,
good
he
of the
needed
club.
to, but it's not only that, but because this was a whole report that was going to be published the next day on a national newspaper. So basically, it went around the world. There was no escape from it, and there was no escape for the club. So he had to do it. And actually, the announcement came like at 1 a.m. or something. And there was like a little advance of the report of the investigation on the newspaper's website, and all hell broke loose.
Were you awake
And
for that, or did you have to wait until the next morning?
no, I think I saw it. I think I saw it. But
Fantastic.
anyway, it was, when I started reading, it was terrible. It was terrible. And then Edwin van der Sar was silent for like a week. And of course, he received all kinds of criticism too. But
Mm.
the thing is that the position that left Overmars vacant wasn't filled for a year and a half. And then, in the meantime, the Ajax decline started. And when van der Sar appointed Sven Mislintat, the German who had like a very good on paper resume,
Yeah.
then it was a complete disaster.
No
And
experience in Dutch football.
basically, but also like very shady management and ways of doing things, like threatening the coach, and doing like shady business supposedly with some players who, for example, Kai, the Danish defender.
Yeah.
No one, the Ajax scouts who work for the club in Denmark, they didn't know anything about the player, and they didn't recommend him. So it's been missing that when, he circled around the structure of the club. And
You just
and
forgot about them really when you're looking at it. It's like, I don't need your
absolutely,
experience
but
at all.
worst of all, that he had a relation with the management of some players. So that was very, very ugly to say. I mean, that didn't look good. So when all those things started to come out, and then of course the results were terrible. And Maurice Stein, the coach, also he wasn't experienced like to take it. He came from Pex Volley,
Yeah.
like a very fairly small team who sometimes relegates and then comes back.
They're
So
not too far from each other now in the Eredivisie. I think Ajax are fifth and
exactly.
Pex Volley are around 11th or so as well.
So the thing is that he maybe is not like a bad coach, but he
Yeah.
came at the worst moment at Ajax, and then Van der Sar quit, and then the whole board of directors quit, and then the whole supervisory board quit. So it was like a headless club. It was total anarchy. So
Definitely.
it was terrible. So then in a year and a half, in 2 years, the club basically fell apart. And then Maurice Stein, after the Klassiker with Feyenoord, he had to be played in two parts because
The game was called off.
the game was called off because the hooligans did it
Every
basically.
single time it happens as well. But they went
Yeah,
overboard this time by going into like the board of directors bit and they went in different entrances and you're just like, come on, it's just a football game. You want to just see your teams play against them, not
exactly. So
fight against members of staff.
They were protesting, but at the same time, they didn't want to see at home their team losing by a tremendous amount of goals against the arch rival.
Yeah.
So that was it. And then, I had to cover it. It was like the first time that happened to me. And the second time, like, it was like 30 minutes left or something, 37 minutes left. And it was on an empty stadium, on an empty Johan Cruyff Arena. And it was like, what the heck? Such a
Lockdown
beautiful
football
game.
again.
Yeah, exactly. So, but basically after that, like Maurice Stein left and also Sven Mislintat. So if that's what they wanted, the hooligans, they got it. And then John Van Het Schip came, and also in a very complicated situation because he had lost his wife like 3 weeks earlier.
Yeah.
Due to cancer. So it was very painful, but he said that he had to do it because it was their club.
Yes.
Like
Felt a sense of ownership as well and responsibility on his shoulders.
Responsibility. My wife would have told me to do it, would have liked me to do it because they met at the club when he was a player. So Ajax, had a very deep meaning for them as a couple and as a family.
Definitely.
And now he has done what he can, but of course it's not like the same level of players. They lost also good, very big talents who, of course, didn't want to stay at the club, and that's the state of things. But at least, I mean, there was a moment at the beginning of the season where they were in relegation, relegation, but they were the last.
It was crazy to see that. It's just like you don't expect to see it at all, and then you're seeing Ajax in the bottom half of the table around Christmas time.
Exactly. And now they are in the upper half. So, but still, like, it's to be seen if they will be playing European football next year. I mean, next season. So we don't know, but still, it's not the level of, but it's not what you expect from Ajax at all.
The standards aren't there for Ajax.
But they are trying to rebuild. They are trying to rebuild internally the club.
What's it been like having Jordan Henderson in the Eredivisie? Has there been a lot of hype because he had the most sold shirts in Ajax history? So more than Dennis Bergkamp, more than Clarence Seedorf, more than Johan Cruyff as well, more than any of these players. Jordan Henderson. Yeah, I'm calling him Jordan, not Jordan, but Jordan Henderson has got the most sold shirts in Ajax football history. Has he made a big impact on the team since joining them in January? Because obviously they've gone back to fifth in the table, but what have you seen from your side, Cecilia?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's due to the adding and the signing of Jordan Henderson.
Okay. He's just been a small cog in it. It's not been a big
impact.
Exactly.
Okay. I don't think he has made a big impact. And you cannot expect either like one player to make a big impact. And I think that what John Van Schip tries to do is like to build a team, not around one player, not because Jordan Henderson chose Ajax basically to flee Saudi Arabia. But he wants him to be another player who helps and not like the big star, because that's not exactly what Ajax is about, except when you have really big stars, but they are still to the service of the team.
They're always going to be service to the team in the Netherlands as well.
Exactly. So
the fan ownership, the way that the clubs are run respectively, it's always got to be about the fans more than the players in a way.
Exactly. And you also have to think that no player at the top of their career is going to choose the Netherlands to come and continue their career. So of course, Jordan Henderson, he is at the end mostly of his career.
Yes.
So he has also passed his prime. So of course he will have lots more experience and titles than all of the players of Ajax right now, but still he needs to prove like why is he such a hyped signing. But of course it was very big news here, and everyone was like, oh, okay, look at you, Jordan Henderson is going to join Ajax. Okay, what an honor. Why not? Welcome.
Exactly. No, it's a fantastic sign as well, because in England we're expecting him to be part of the European Championship squad because there's a big favourite under Gareth Southgate in the national team as well. We don't expect him to start, but we think he should be there in the national team as well, respectively. So that will be something that we'll be keeping an eye on from our side, from our podcast anyway, over the next couple months as well. But moving on from Ajax to the leaders of the Eredivisie, PSV Eindhoven. So PSV Eindhoven are looking fantastic this season. They are again like 30 points ahead of rivals Ajax as well, and Feyenoord are going to be behind them as well. We'll get to Feyenoord and a couple of their players later on, but I want to know more from your point of view. How have PSV then become the top team so far in the Eredivisie? Is it because they re-signed Hirving Lozano, the Mexican hitman, who was fantastic at Napoli and now is actually doing really good back again with Johan Bakayoko as another wing partnership that looks really good in the Eredivisie? Bakayoko one side, Lozano one side, Luke de Jong, the veteran striker, in the middle as well. What is it about PSV that are looking really exciting for them in the Eredivisie and in the Champions League as well? Because they drew 1-1 against
Yeah,
Borussia Dortmund as well.
exactly. They have all opportunities to go through and make it to the quarterfinals. So there's everything to be written there. There's nothing definitely said either for Borussia Dortmund or for PSV.
Yes, yeah.
Of course, everyone is hopeful. I know fans of other teams like Ajax or Feyenoord who support PSV in the Champions League, because that also means more points for the coefficient, for the UEFA coefficient. So
Absolutely.
the Netherlands can grow and have more teams in Europe in the next seasons. So
which then builds your league as well a lot more, and it builds the
exactly,
quality of the players that can come as well.
exactly. At the moment, it's the sixth league and always fighting with France and Portugal. But yeah, I think PSV, that for me, the difference was it's Peter Bosz.
Really?
Yeah, Peter Bosz,
Ooh.
because, Ruud van Nistelrooy wasn't bad, but then he had, complications with the players at the locker room. And actually the players stabbed him, a group of players stabbed him in the back, and he left because of that, because they went to the board, some of the directors, to accuse him, like, hey, we don't like him, or we don't like his ways, or whatever, so sack him or stick with him. But they went behind his back instead of facing him and,
Because he was really good as
talking.
a youth coach as well with the
Yeah,
under 18s. He
absolutely.
was fantastic as a man manager there. But when he got the opportunity as a first team coach as well, I didn't know that the players disrupted the dressing room, or he disrupted the dressing room and the players went to the board as well. That's a crazy story to hear about as well.
Yeah, it wasn't really nice. But I don't think it was him. I think it was the players.
Yes.
Maybe the players didn't like his ways, because he was like he's very strict, and he was,
He's very
also
stubborn in his approach as well in
yeah,
coaching.
and he's a legend of the club too. So of course he wants the best, and he wants his players to behave the best, and he wants discipline, and he wants so. There were some players that weren't like, who didn't agree with that approach. And
Imagine disagreeing with Ruud van Nistelrooy though, when you
oh,
think about it. One of the best ever players of PSV Eindhoven's history, one of the best ever players for the Netherlands. But no, I don't want to listen to him because I think my ways are better. That's crazy
yeah,
talk when you think of it.
yeah. But well, when he learned that, he had no other paths than resigning. So he resigned, and then they brought Peter Bosz,
Yes.
who was jobless at the moment. So he was available, and he's a really wonderful coach. I think he just was the right fit for the right club. And he has such an array of talented players, and he makes the best with them. And of course, PSV will never be at the same level of Premier League side, or even a Bundesliga side, in terms of, the money that the Eredivisie clubs can spend in order to reinforce themselves.
Yes.
But he has managed everything so well that you could see maybe a sort of an Ajax miracle, like in 2018, 2019 with PSV. Like, I have that kind of hope.
We saw it a
Because he's
couple
very
seasons ago
strong.
with Feyenoord as well. When Feyenoord got to the Conference League final in the first ever
Yeah,
Conference League, that was a big story as well. Seeing a Dutchman get all the
yeah,
way there.
exactly. But this is in the Champions League, so we
Yeah,
need
definitely. We need a big team from the Netherlands showing
ex
off in the Champions League again.
exactly. So we have that hope, and I would say that PSV, it's a team that I don't see the animosity that Feyenoord or Ajax can create from one side or the other. PSV is a team that everyone can gather behind them. So
They're my Dutch team. That's all I'm saying as well. So
okay, that's good. Yeah, and
yeah,
the atmosphere is very nice. the stadium is beautiful. So it's like I am a Feyenoord fan, but if I wasn't a Feyenoord fan, I would be a PSV fan.
Definitely.
Let's
No,
put it
I
that
interviewed
way.
I interviewed a PSV player last season, and then she was like, "Oh yeah, whenever you're in the Netherlands, make sure you come to Eindhoven, and we'll make sure that we get to meet up." And I challenged her to a penalty shootout, and I'm like, "Why am I challenging a professional footballer to a penalty shootout?" But I'm very confident in myself as well. But I think I would lose. But it'd make a very funny video, nevertheless.
Yeah, and their facilities, their training ground is amazing too. I mean,
They're
they have
excellent.
wonderful facilities. Yeah, they are excellent in every way. It's very nice also to try to work with them in terms of getting interviews, or they are very
Open to it.
helpful. Yeah. So I also interviewed then their former keeper, Eli Sarasola.
Oh,
So yeah, it was a very nice experience. And
sounds cool.
then yeah, and Peter Bos, for example, on the press conference, he's very open. He has a wonderful sense of humor. So yeah, it's a very good club. It's a very
But
and well, now they have a 10-point advantage
on
from
Feyenoord.
Feyenoord. So Feyenoord needs to win in Eindhoven, which is very, very difficult because they weren't able to win either the Johan Cruyff Schaal, which is like the Dutch Super Cup,
Yes.
at the Kuip, and they weren't able to win either at home at the first leg of the Eredivisie with them. So it's going to be very difficult. But now at this point of the season, maybe although Feyenoord is hurt after their Europa League elimination and all. And
I
of
would say so.
course, yeah, maybe it's a good motivation. And on the other hand, PSV needs to be competing also on the Champions League. So they need to be careful, not to go full gas on everything, because they need to take care of their players. So it's going to be a very interesting match. It should be.
Definitely, because with Feyenoord as well, as we move on to Feyenoord from PSV Eindhoven, they've got a really good array of young, talented players coming through. You've got the likes of Santiago Jimenez, you've got Minter, who's on loan, I believe, from Newcastle. You've got Quinton Timber as well in midfield, who's been quite up and down the season from what I've seen anyway, as well. But I wanted to know from your point of view, being a Feyenoord fan, representing Feyenoord as well today on the podcast and actually working with them consistently as well. Let me hear your thoughts on Feyenoord, and obviously you've spoken about how they will be challenged in this game as well. But do you think they've overachieved this season in terms of the quality that their team have got, respectively, or do you think this is kind of where they deserve to be right now? What do you think, Cecilia?
You know what? I think that last season was perfect for them, and they could have
Fantastic season.
achieved more. It was fantastic. It was a dreamy season. But then they got against a wall that they hadn't faced before, and it was the fact that they weren't used to be to start behind in matches. They were always used to take the lead, always to score first. And they also lost their captain, leader, and one of their best players, Orkan Kokcu.
Yes.
So that was also
Benfica, didn't he go to? Yeah.
exactly. He went to Benfica. So that's also something that I think affected the team, and something that I have to say, my husband saw it and believed it because he's a Feyenoord fan. And ever since Marino Pusic, who was Arne Slot's assistant, left to become the head coach of Shakhtar Donetsk,
Yes.
also the team started to, perform
Badly.
poorlier, if you wish.
Yes. With less quality.
With less quality, yeah. So I think there's a psychological factor, and I've talked about that with Santi Jimenez. Like, for example, the wonderful games they had against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League.
They were fantastic.
They were fantastic. They should have won in Madrid, and they couldn't. And that was actually the very first team in the same day that Marino Pusic announced his departure.
Yes.
So it was like a hit, and they should have won that game, and they didn't. So they have like a psychological thing where they cannot sort of keep
They can't
either
keep the lead.
the lead or for some
Fight back.
reason exactly fight back or whatever. There's something there. And then when in the same week when they got eliminated by Atletico Madrid and then they lost against PSV, it was a very painful week. And I asked Santi Giménez, okay, there's something here because you're not used to, if we compare the team and the performance of last season, you're not used to come from behind. You're not used to not take the lead. And that happened with Atletico Madrid, and that happened now with PSV.
There were games they should have won.
Exactly. And he told me
Champions last
exactly.
season, and then it just went downhill, like you said as well. They're games
Yeah,
they should have won from the outside
exactly.
looking in.
Exactly. And he told me, yes, you're right. We're not used to start losing a game, to start behind, and then we don't know how to, especially if we were playing well, if we were having the best chances and we couldn't finish them, we couldn't translate that into goals. So then the rival, scores out of nowhere, and then we don't know what to do. It's like we are just, and we need to act more like a family in terms of lift each other up, and act like a team and like a family to come from behind and to create a comeback.
Absolutely.
And they haven't cracked that code yet. So that's complicated. That's complicated for Feyenoord. But they have wonderful players. And as you said, Minte, I love him. I adore him. I think he's so talented. Santi has lost a bit his touch in the last weeks, but I also think that he's paying the price of not having proper vacations during the summer, because
been awful for him as well.
Yeah, he only had 1 week because he finished the season with Feyenoord. He became champions.
Yeah.
Then he went to play the Gold Cup with Mexico, and he became champions too. And only then, like about July before the preseason, he only had like 1 week vacation with his girlfriend, and that was it. 1 week after playing like crazy for 11 months. And also having to travel several times, intercontinentally with the time differences, which are crazy because it's like 7, 8, 9 hours. And then you have to come back. That takes a toll, in my opinion.
The thing with Santiago Giménez is the fact that he's already outscored himself from last season. From the outside looking in, it looks fantastic because he's scoring a lot more goals in the Eredivisie. 19 goals and 4 assists already this season, beating last season's tally of 15 goals and 2 assists. But for me, from what I'm looking at from Santiago Giménez, is there's more ownership on him more than anyone else in that final team, because he's now the main man from what I can see in that team. You've got Hartman, who's good at left back. You mentioned Minte earlier as well, Cecilia as well. But what is it about Santiago Giménez that brings that X factor to Feyenoord as well? Because besides this whole year of playing football, it reminds me of Pedri. When Pedri went to the Olympics after the Euros for Spain, he was just playing every single game, every single month, every single time. And that's the same thing. We see that a lot with young players. They just love to play every single game.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that this summer as well with the Olympics as well, aren't we? A lot of teams qualifying for the Olympics, they will play in the Euros or the Copa America, and then they'll go to the Olympics, and then they'll go back to their club. And there's no respite in football for a lot of these young players.
Exactly.
Let's hear your thoughts on Santiago Giménez improving from last season, and especially the fact of no rest every time around, like more players.
Yeah. Well, he actually told me that on that after that game against PSV for the Dutch Super Cup, I told him you only had 1 week vacation. How are you going to manage? And he told me, well, that's why I'm here, because I want to play everything. He should have been on vacation that day, and he still played the game. They lost. But you know what? That was something that I talked and discussed with the technical staff and with Arne Slot, and we made an agreement. And we agreed that I wanted to be here, and they wanted that. So okay, I'm here.
Pure enthusiasm as a young
Exactly. He's only 22, so you can understand that. But still, at 22, everyone says, and everyone can agree, that the match calendar for any player, it's crazy, especially when they are in their national teams.
Absolutely.
So, but still, sometimes there have been, this season hasn't been the same for Feyenoord, but still in the most difficult games, sometimes you haven't seen Santi Jimenez until you see him in his scores.
Yeah, he'll ghost in a lot
he
of
has
games as well.
exactly. He has that. He has that. Even on games where at games where they have lost, like the last PSV game, they lost 2-1, and he scored the one for Feyenoord, but he's never satisfied. He
I wouldn't
always
be.
wants more. Yeah,
He's
he
one of the
always
top
wants
players
more.
in the CONCACAF
Exactly.
region and one of the best players in the Eredivisie.
Absolutely. But he hasn't scored in the last weeks, and he has. Oh no, I'm wrong about that. But he hasn't performed with
To
the
his standards.
with the same standards and with the same enthusiasm. I would say I think he's starting to show.
Yes.
At this moment of the season that he's a bit tired, and maybe it wouldn't be crazy if we start seeing, let's say, Minte instead of Santi starting the games.
Or Ueda as well, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ueda hasn't had many chances either, and we know he's a tremendous player for the Japanese national team, but he hasn't shown much at Feyenoord, and he's supposed to be a little bit of a successor of Santi.
Yes.
So he needs more preparation, because we know that Santi has his days counted at Feyenoord. He's going to go
to Manchester United.
Exactly.
We're gonna sign him. We're gonna sign him.
To a bigger club or a bigger league. So
could you imagine that? Højlund and Santiago Jimenez as two strikers for Man United. We're gonna get on to Manchester United in a bit. It'd be fantastic. But before we end the Eredivisie talk, I need to ask you, Cecilia, who are the top 3 players that we should be watching out for in the Eredivisie? They can be young players like Jimenez, it could be like Minte, or established players as well like Jordan Henderson. So the last topic on Eredivisie, your top 3 players in the Eredivisie this season, who are they?
Oh, I looked for them because I was trying to prepare on that, because as I told you, I forget things. But at this moment, the big talk is around Thomas Valen. He's a central defender of Feyenoord.
Yes.
He's replacing currently Trauner, Gernot Trauner, because he's injured, and he has such talent. So you should be keeping an eye on him, because I don't think he will last a lot in the Eredivisie either.
I think a season or 2, and then he'll be moved.
Yeah, definitely. Also, Casey Smith from AZ.
Yes.
He is a tremendous talented midfielder. And wait a minute. And I like, but he's not Dutch.
It doesn't have to be Dutch. It's fine.
Yeah, wait a minute, because I had it. I can't remember his name, but he's this Norwegian player from Ajax. Wait a minute. The Ajax squad. Is it? I saw it. Christian Linson.
Christian
Linson. Yeah. I love him. Sometimes I just keep my eye not on the evident players. Yeah, of course, I would have to tell you Santi Jimenez and all. He's going to take the lead very, very soon. But Linson, I think when Ajax plays well and when he gets the ball, you can always expect danger for the rivals. And he's a striker, and he's a wonderful, talented player. So I would keep an eye on those 3.
Definitely. It will be good to see a lot more of them coming through, because as everyone knows everyone who knows about football, the Eredivisie is one of the hotbeds of European football for young talent to come through and to shine on the world stage as well. And we've seen a lot more of these players come through in recent years to the big teams. We've seen Matthijs de Ligt go from Ajax to Juventus, now at Bayern Munich. We've seen Frenkie de Jong at Barcelona as well. And again, you and I being Manchester United fans, Cecilia, we know all about Dutch talents coming through and playing for Manchester United. And that brings us to today's start bench cell. So Cecilia, I'll explain the rule. It's basically we've got 3 players to choose from. They play in similar positions, similar styles. And it's about, if you were the coach, where would you have them? Would you start them? Would you have them on the bench? Or would you sell them because they're not really needed? So start bench sell, Manchester United, Dutch edition, strikers. I'm going to go for Ruud van Nistelrooy, Robin van Persie, and Memphis Depay. I was
Oh my God.
I
Okay.
was gonna add Wout Weghorst in, but I think Depay is a better option for this one in all respects as well. So Cecilia, let me hear your thoughts. Who are you starting? Who are you benching? And who are you selling from Ruud van Nistelrooy,
Oh my
Bet,
God.
Robin van Persie of a club that you support, Feyenoord, and Memphis Depay, one of the best strikers currently for the Netherlands.
Jesus, so difficult. But from the, I mean, from those three, well, it's already what happened. Selling Memphis. I'm sorry,
Yes,
but you cannot compare him to Van Persie or Van Nistelrooy. There's
absolutely.
no discussion. There's no discussion whatsoever.
The thing with
This is
Memphis Depay, he could end up being the all-time top goal scorer of the Netherlands as well.
yeah,
With all the great players I've had, it could be Memphis Depay in a year or 2 years' time, which is crazy.
yeah, definitely. But if I mean, if you compare him to Van Nistelrooy or Van Persie, there's no way. He
No chance.
pales. No chance. He pales in comparison, sadly. Which doesn't mean that I don't like him when he plays for the Oranje. I think he's the best striker we can have right now. But maybe along with Hakpo. But I think they understand each other well.
Yeah.
But I mean, Van Nistelrooy was an alien. He was from another planet. I mean, Van Nistelrooy, I still can see and can watch videos of him, and it's crazy. And the same, I got to see the last. I got to see Van Persie playing at Feyenoord the last seasons. It
Yes.
was a privilege, even when he wasn't at his top fitness, and he always struggled with injuries and all, but the magic tricks he pulled out of his hat at certain points, it was just amazing. You couldn't believe. So it's very difficult not to, I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm going to bench Van Persie, but it's still, geez, it is so difficult. But if just Van Nistelrooy takes the lead for just this
Just a little
little
bit.
bit,
Yeah.
just a little bit. But I adore them both. I adore them both.
No, absolutely. I think I'd agree with you on this one as well. I would start Ruud van Nistelrooy. No, yeah, I would start Ruud van Nistelrooy. I would bench Robin van Persie, and I would sell Memphis Depay as well. Memphis Depay is on track to become the all-time leading goal scorer of the Netherlands, but Robin van Persie was someone who would score a different type of goal every game he played. He could score
Yes,
outrageous volleys. He could score diving headers in the World Cup. He would score incredible finishes and half volleys. He was incredible with his technique. That left foot was something dangerous when you're watching
yes,
him play. But for me, Ruud van Nistelrooy, what a finisher he was. 150 goals in 219 appearances for Manchester United. He was just a professional goal scorer. He would get any type of goal in the 18-yard box as well. And what a joy of a player he was to watch when you're watching him at Manchester United as well. And for me, growing up watching Ruud van Nistelrooy, that was an absolute joy. And I had the opportunity to watch Robin van Persie versus Olympiacos in the Champions League when he scored a hat trick at Old Trafford. We were losing 2-0 in the first leg. And in the second leg, when Robin van Persie scored a hat trick at Old Trafford,
oh my,
one of the greatest moments post Sir Alex Ferguson, seeing a hat trick by a striker. And we're looking at strikers now in the Premier League, and not many can score consistent hat tricks or goals like Robin
no,
van Persie could as well. So no disrespect to Robin van Persie, but for me, Ruud van Nistelrooy was one of the best finishers we've ever seen at Manchester United and with the Netherlands as well, which is
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I think, yeah, I don't know if it's fair to say after Dennis Bergkamp, but they are like
just top
on
level,
the
elite level.
top level, elite, absolutely elite level, and of course Van Persie too. But then the last years at Manchester United, he declined sharply, and he
Yes.
wasn't the same. So, but
I think
still, I
mentally it
mean,
just wasn't the same
yeah,
after Sir Alex Ferguson left.
no, yeah, because he spent so many years frustrated at Arsenal, and then he left for Manchester United, and then he almost got everything he wanted. At least he could savor, the Premier League title, and then that same year, Sir Alex Ferguson left, and then it's like, what's left for me?
Absolutely. It's
So
true.
yeah,
And then he had to move on to Fenerbahce, then had to move to Feyenoord as well. And then now his son is becoming a professional footballer as well. So
yeah, and keep an eye on him too. He's only 15, 16,
mm,
and also keep an eye on Robin van Persie as a coach. At
yes,
least
really.
as a
He recently
youth
came to
coach.
Carrington as well. So that was
Yeah,
something.
as a youth coach, he's crushing it. at Feyenoord under 18. He's
Yes.
crushing it. He's winning like almost every game he plays or every tournament he plays. He's really good, especially motivating and educating those young players, including his son, because he has his son on his squad.
Yes.
But he doesn't treat him like, oh, my little kid. No, he's very responsible on that, and the way he wants to shape him as a player. So yeah, I'm definitely keeping an eye, because what I've seen from Robin van Persie as a coach, at least as a youth coach, which doesn't mean exactly that he can be like a first team coach the same, but as a youth coach, he is so promising. I mean, he's amazing. He's amazing. And I hope that he brings that excellence to a first team, whatever, like especially Feyenoord or Manchester United. That would be a dream.
I
But
would say so as well. You'd love
yeah,
to see more of Robin van Persie back in the spotlight, and we've seen so many coaches like Xabi Alonso go to work for Real Sociedad under 19s, under 23s. We've seen Mikel Arteta work as an assistant coach for Pep Guardiola. But when they work with youth coaches as youth coaches as well, that's how you develop talent straight away. And when you can
exactly.
develop talent, you can get that out of anyone as well. So you can do it at the top level, do it in the youth level as well, and that's where we want to see more of our coaches in England personally develop themselves, because in the Netherlands, in Spain, in Germany, that's where they shine and that's where they become top coaches as well. We're looking at Xabi Alonso a lot this season at Bayer Leverkusen, and he's unbeaten for Bayer Leverkusen as well. Van Nistelrooy was fantastic as well for PSV's academy as well, which is
Yeah,
incredible. But
exactly.
no,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, definitely. But they made a sort of a documentary on a youth tournament where Feyenoord under 18 participated, and Robin van Persie was the coach, and
yeah,
they had the cameras in the locker room, and you could see the pep talk at the final, and he was just using all of his experience, about the anxiety of having the eyes set only on the title and only winning. He told the kids about his experience as a World Cup finalist and what they felt, and so what they did wrong and why they failed at that.
yeah.
So, okay, don't do the same, because we only had our eyes and intentions and energy put on the title instead of just playing the game. So just go play the game and have fun. This is only a football game.
Being
And they
fearless.
won, exactly. And they won the tournament.
Yeah, no,
So
it's great
yeah,
to see as
I
well.
think it was against Manchester United,
It
actually.
was, it was,
It
it was, it
was,
was.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was in Croatia.
it was one of those
So
youth tournaments where everyone gets to go from
exactly,
different teams in Europe.
exactly. So it was wonderful. But to listening to him, it was poetry. It's like, okay, wow. I want him, I'm so want to see him, advancing on his career as a coach. So we'll see if
Absolutely.
he's just a wonderful youth coach, or if he can leap to a first team.
I
We'll
would
see.
say so. It would be
Yeah.
good to see Robin van Persie back at Manchester United, because our coach, Erik ten Hag, is kind of struggling at the moment, isn't he, Cecilia? You're looking at how we've lost 10 games already this season at home, and it's been embarrassing to look at Manchester United. We've seen some players that we did sign from the Eredivisie as well. We saw the players like Anthony come into the side, Andre Onana being a former player at Ajax as well. It's not looking great. Currently, we're recording this before the Nottingham Forest game as well, and before the Manchester derby, which is coming up on the weekend. But before we end the podcast, Cecilia, I need to get two predictions from you regarding
Ooh.
Manchester United. So two is, do you think Manchester United will qualify for the Champions League? And do you think Erik ten Hag stays in his job by the end of the season? Because it is looking very difficult, especially with the new regime from Ineos coming in, Sir Jim Radcliffe, Sir Jim Brailsford as well, no, Sir Dave Brailsford as well. Let me hear your thoughts, Cecilia.
Well, I think there's all to be seen with the new management and the involvement of Sir James Radcliffe as part of the ownership of the club. And
Yes,
the good thing is that he is a Manchester United fan, and he got involved not only because of the tremendous business potential, but because he also wants the best for the club. But at the
absolutely.
same time, he already said, okay, the history, the business history, and the transfer history of the last years will affect the next transfer window. So I
Financial
don't
fair
know.
play.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what can happen in that sense. And on the other hand, you have to see how many coaches have gone through the club without success after Sir Alex Ferguson, and you can only but wonder, okay, what about the players, especially in the last, I don't know, 5 years.
Yes.
Sometimes I think that, the players didn't help exactly, and it's a complicated situation, because I don't think that Erik ten Hag is a bad coach, but I think that it's so difficult to work at a club like Manchester United with the management they've had, and the players, the squad he had, even though of course he signed players of his trust, former Ajax players and whatever, but still, I cannot predict what's going to happen, because it all will come to basically money. I think that the club is not in a position to spend too much. They need to also renovate Carrington and Old Trafford. We'll see what will be their focus.
And the women's team as well.
And the women's team, of
develop that
course.
as well.
So maybe, just try to keep going with what we have and make the best of it, and maybe try to have a little bit more patience. Also, if you remember, it's not that I'm comparing them, but the first 3 years with Sir Alex Ferguson were terrible.
Exactly.
So maybe there's one more year for Erik ten Hag, and then we'll see.
Definitely, because it's looking likely. Because when Erik ten Hag came in last season and you had a starting 11, they were fantastic. But when injuries come into it, there's just never a suitable replacement for anyone when you're looking at it. And then the way that when you're looking at Rasmus Højlund finally getting form, scoring 6 goals in 6 games and then 7 goals in 6 games as well, you're looking at it like, oh, this is great. We can qualify for the Champions League, and then boom, injured, and then you're like, oh no, there's no dominant replacement for him as well.
Erik ten Hag has had so many injured players.
Yes.
So many key injured players. And then, as you said, there's no like a really good replacement for them. So it's like struggling against what I have versus what I have, but they are injured. What can I do? It's super complicated to deal with such situation, and like with sometimes like a whole 11 almost injured, like starting 11. So it's complicated for him too. He tries to, and as you say also, it's like sometimes it seems like they are recovering and they are on a, going up, and then crash again.
Yes.
So
the story of our season.
Exactly. No, it's terrible. It's been terrible. So it's like, okay, I don't want to keep any illusions.
Are you excited about Ineos coming in? Are you excited about the new regime and hopefully?
Absolutely. Because of what I said before, I think that when someone loves the club and have money, I think that hopefully, if they make the right decisions, they can really improve what it needs to be improved. And I'm hopeful. I can't say otherwise. I'm hopeful about the involvement of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, definitely.
No,
but we'll know in a few years or in a year.
Yeah, it can only be better than what we've already got. So we're always going to be having hope, and that's what you have as a football fan. You have hope for your team. We're looking forward to seeing them improve as well, which is great. Final question from me before we wrap up this part of the podcast: who is your favorite former Manchester United player that you've met? Because I've seen some of the players that you met. You may have met a few since then as well. But who's your favorite former Manchester United that you met? Let me hear a story about when you met them and why was it your favorite?
I think it has to be between Rio Ferdinand and Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Oh, let's hear both of them.
Yeah, both of them, because it was so funny. Rio, I met Rio in Rio de Janeiro, so it was funny. Rio in Rio.
Were you at the World Cup in 2014?
Yeah, I was for like 36 hours in Brazil. They called me from ESPN for that terrible game between Chile and Brazil for the round of 16.
Yeah, it was a poor game for Chile.
Yeah, no, it was, in the end, that post of Pinilla, it was like for 2 centimeters.
Literally, goal line technology couldn't have got it wrong as well. It must have been painful for you as well.
Terrible. It was terribly painful. But I was there to be on the panel and comment on that game. And then we were having dinner with all of my teammates, and we were sitting there, and then someone said, okay, look at Rio Ferdinand is there, he's crossing the street. across the street, crossing the street. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a Manchester United fan. I would like to go and ask him for a photo, but I don't want to bother him. And of course, he was in the meantime, like this, like milliseconds. And they told me, just go, there, go, do it. And I was like, okay. So I tried to be very, very brave because I'm very shy. I don't like to just bother people doing that. But okay, whatever.
I mean,
was
you
running.
probably were shy back in like 2014, but from this podcast, you're definitely not shy, Cecilia, as well. You're very confident in
No,
yourself,
but
which is great.
in that kind of scenario, I mean, they are like, you look at them as such big stars and players, like I'm just like this, I feel
And
so
now it's
small.
normal for you as well when you think about it. It's hindsight.
Yeah. The funny thing is that I started running and I ran, Rio, across the street. Thank goodness there were no cars.
Mm.
There were no cars. So I just
No
crossed the street
accidents.
and then nothing. And he was walking with a friend, only the two of them, completely alone. There was no one else in the street. I mean, it was super, super peaceful. And I said, Rio, I'm a Manchester United fan. Can I take a picture with you, please? And of course, and he took my phone and he took the picture. He took the selfie. And if you see my face there, you're going to see like a ear-to-ear smile because I was like
The
so
biggest
happy.
smile.
Yeah, and he was very nice, very nice. Of course, I thanked him, and he was very, very polite with me. And then I came back. I did the picture, and they were cheering on me because I dared to do it.
Nah, it's really good story as well. And in
Yeah,
De Janeiro as well. What a cool place to be at the time as well. Unfortunately, not great for Chile in the World Cup, but that was a
yeah,
fantastic story. What was it like when you met
yeah.
Ruud van Nistelrooy for the first time?
Well, it was at the PSV title celebration in 2018.
Yes.
And they were having this party, and it was supposed to interview an Argentinian player, and I couldn't find him anywhere. So I was just walking around trying to find him to interview him with my phone and all, because I couldn't find him on the mix zone.
Yes. Yeah.
And I got access to this sort of a cocktail. It was very informal. And then like I saw walking against me. I saw Van Nistelrooy walking against me, and he was leaving. And it was like, oh my God, it's now or never. It's oh my God, because I had interviewed him first in the mix zone before the celebration, but of course that was work. But then when I signed, I was like, and I was like, oh my God, and I went against all my shyness and against all my fears and whatever. And then, Ruud, excuse me, I'm a Manchester United fan and I'm a Real Madrid fan. Then I don't care much now, but please, can I have a picture with you, please? And of course, and he posed. But thank you very much. He was super nice, super polite. I mean, nothing like, no, I'm in a rush. No, he's super like. If you ask him, I guess, with education, they will answer properly. So it was very nice too.
I can see you're still
a very
smiling
nice
from
guy.
it as well, which is
Yeah,
fantastic. So,
definitely. And it was like, oh my God, another Manchester United player for my collection of pictures. So that was nice.
nah, it's fantastic. And thank you very much for telling your stories as well. It's been absolutely amazing to hear the fact that you got to meet a couple of Manchester United legends and obviously football icons from earlier in the show as well, which is fantastic. And now we're at the end of the podcast as well. Before we wrap up, I want to say thank you very much to Cecilia for sharing her time, her efforts, and especially her stories and her insight in the Eredivisie from this season as well. It's been great to learn more from Cecilia as well. Hopefully we get Cecilia on later down in the season when it's closer at the title race in the Eredivisie, which will be great fun as well. And maybe even for the Copa America in the summer as well, when we're going to see a lot more of the Chile versus Argentina. Oh, that's going to be a crazy game in the USA as well, which will be good fun. That's going to be a good group stages as well. I think you've got 4 different groups are looking really good. They're not done yet as well because of the playoffs, but that's another topic for another day entirely. But yeah, Cecilia, thank you very much for your time today. You've been fantastic sharing your thoughts and your insight as well. Last question from me to you. Will Feyenoord catch up PSV Eindhoven for the title race in the Eredivisie?
There was a moment that I thought it could happen. Now I think it will depend on the game next Sunday.
Yes.
If they don't win, I don't see it happening, honestly. But if they are able to shorten the distance to 7 points, then I would say anything can happen. But of course, PSV will have the advantage, and they are very, very strong. But Feyenoord needs to really, really apply themselves if they want to cut them out.
I think so too. When you're looking at final being knocked out of European football, and if PSV win against Borussia Dortmund, that's also another hindrance that they'll have to deal with as
Exactly.
well. More game time, more traveling, all these little things
Exactly.
will become a big
Exactly.
factor for
Exactly.
PSV.
So it will be a very nice and interesting end of the season if Feyenoord wins in Eindhoven next Sunday.
Definitely it will be. But no, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for everyone listening. Do follow us on our social medias on Instagram, TikTok, and on YouTube as well. Cecilia, thank you very much for your time. Your social media pages will be on our description below as well, which will be fantastic. But everyone, thank you very much. Take care, and we'll see you
Thank
later.
you. Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a really fun football conversation.
It definitely was.